Alrighty, take two. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation, bringing you guys a game between Fnatic and Team Liquid. This is going to be a best-of-3 series here. Had a quick remake to make sure that Trixie could actually get on into the game instead of having to 4v5, but now we're on into this next series, and this is going to be interesting. This is the loser's bracket of the playoffs. This means that whoever loses this best-of-3 is out of the tournament. Unfortunately for them, the fourth prize does not exist. It's only first, second, and third, and as such, both of them wanting to get something out of their fought time in the Premier League Season 4, they really need to win this match. And yeah, it's difficult because these are two really strong teams, have a strong showing in multiple different positions, whether, when obviously in Europe, Fnatic have been taking down a lot of major teams and have kind of shown a spree of dominance where once they've fallen into their own style, once they're allowed to play their game, there's really very few that can compete directly with them. They have to, other teams have to draft against Fnatic more so than drafting for themselves. Whereas with Team Liquid, they show their strength and versatility. They show their strength and flexibility. They have individuals, their number 1, number 2, and number 3 players switch up their roles relatively frequently. I mean, more commonly we see a TC in the farming role, the carry role, Korok on the mid, and Bulba on the offlane, but we've seen plenty of other ways that can work with different hero compositions. So it's really a very strong, flexible American lineup that recently just are kind of running off the high of taking down Na'Vi in the G1 League, just completely eliminating them from the Western qualifiers. That's got to feel good, and that definitely shows a lot stronger of a showing than they brought to the table up against Virtus.pro in their first series, which brought them down into the loser bracket here today. So I'm excited about this game. Finally loading on in. We are on into it, and now would like to warmly welcome to the broadcast my co-caster Vikramond, who is having some technical issues.
Hey Blaze, wow, we were so close to not loading into that game. I was really worried, but we got in there. I'm really excited about this. Both these teams, I don't know, Liquid, I love this team. I love watching both these teams. They're excellent, very different styles. Liquid a little bit feast or famine. Yesterday we had the famine, and this morning we had the feast. They had a lot of trouble with Virtus.pro yesterday. They were taken down 2-0, and remember, this is our 1 seed. This is the team that only dropped 1 series the entire time in the regular season of the Premier League. The series they dropped was to Fnatic. Probably the best, if I had to say the best series in the group stage of this tournament this season. That series was really good. But then Liquid this morning, they come back. And in fact, interestingly enough, the exact problems that they had when they were facing VP were, I think, their strengths against Na'Vi. So they really struggled to get their supports involved in the game yesterday. Like Fluff and Mike just had a really tough game in terms of actually making a contribution and not getting overwhelmed by Virtus.pro. The exact opposite thing happened this morning. So Fluff and stuff was insane. I mean, I don't know if you watched the games, but like his Lina, and then the Chen was really good in game 2, but game 1, it was all about that Lina. Like his coordination with IX Mike on the Shadow Demon was perfect. And just even by himself, just the amount of damage he was dealing, and I don't think he even died. He went like 8-0-9 or something. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of checked it out myself. It was like ×4 speed, just kind of cruising through, getting the good gist of it. Awesome stuff you can get when you purchase the Dota TV pass there, which of course everybody can do for Premier League, if you guys still want to check out that for the playoffs. Either way, Shadow Demon was picked up by X Mike both games. He played it amazingly well. They handed Lifestealer to TC a couple times over. Not going to be an option here because Fnatic does ban it out. But the other thing that I want to note is that Korok was just all over the place. He played long-range initiating heroes that could do good damage and had orchids. They had a Templar Assassin orchid, they had, was it a Storm Spirit orchid? Something like that. They were able to just jump all over the place and really make sure that he can be a big part of it as well. But yeah, it comes down to support play to build it up so that the core heroes can do a lot with their composition.
Yeah. And the last time that these two teams met, Fnatic and Liquid, it actually was supports that won the game too. Liquid took Fnatic 2-0 in the Azo Cup. That was about, I think, almost exactly 1 month ago. And also they played non-traditional support play. They went with a Shadow Shaman for Fluff in one game, I think, and I can't remember, I think a Lion in the other one. And it was, again, very effective. That's sort of where they got the advantage. So Liquid, they're going to feel confident after their win against Na'Vi earlier this morning. Fnatic should feel okay as well. The one challenge we have to talk about for Fnatic is working as a 5-man unit, because of course Hani not here. They're running Jaco in place of him. I don't know what position he'll go in, because actually I don't know what positions Fnatic are going to be running in general. Arrow will almost certainly be in the number 1, but the rest is not entirely clear. No Tail has played mid, so there was a period in which they were sort of drafting compositions with him in the mid instead of Hani, and Hani moved to the 4. I don't know if they'll return him to the mid today, or if they'll leave him support with Fly as the sort of no-tail Fly support pair.
Yeah.
And then Trixie, the last time these two teams played, Cinderin was standing in for Fly. Trixie played mid, and they had Cinderin standing in. So we could see Trixie mid, we could see no-tail mid, and either way, Fnatic are going to have to be very careful about A, how their support pair matches up to Liquid's, B, controlling Korok, because Korok is such a explosive player, he can really just overwhelm your team if you don't have control of it.
Definitely. So I would expect most likely to see No Tail on the mid lane in this situation, just because he has shown a lot of prowess in that role set, and it's a lot easier for somebody to just be settled in a supportive role. Just say, hey, well, you just cover this for us, you do this kind of standard stacking pulling thing, come in for these engagements. It's not a low priority role by any standpoint, but when you want to make the plays happen, you want to be comfortable with who you're putting in that position. And now we see an interesting draft proceeding on through, where we're going to have to see either the Batrider or the Magnus in a less than favorable position. They obviously can't go on the mid lane. We have seen No Tail have some issues with Magnus before, as far as reverse players. A lot of people still remember those days from, I think it was Star Ladder was the one where there were a couple that were rather questionable. But either way, whether he picks up the Batrider or the Magnus, they still have to send one of those on the offlane. Trixie has run both of those previously and has a lot of potential with that. And then, of course, either hero has some potential to jungle as well. Probably the Batrider more so than the Magnus, though.
Yeah, I think most likely we see a pickup for Korok here. There's none of his potential heroes are banned out. There's Puck, there's Storm Spirit. These are heroes that I expected the two teams to fight over. Oh no, sorry. He's gonna just we're gonna have Boba on the Brewmaster. I'm totally crazy. We have the Chen, so that's a very strong hero. That's one that I expected the teams to fight over. This rotation for Fnatic in terms of which heroes are playing which roles actually frees up the draft a lot, and it's going to make it weirder for if the two teams are sort of researching each other's picks. It's going to make the draft a little less controlled, because the standard way that they play when Hani is here relies on a lot of the same heroes. Hani likes Puck and Storm Spirit, so does Korok. Trixie likes Nature's Prophet, and so does Bulba. And so on and so forth. They both like Lifestealer. If you go to the carries, you have Chen for the supports. But with this rotation of No Tail and Yako as a stand-in, it really just opens up the draft a lot. And so we see Brew. It's usually Bulba on this hero, even when it's in the mid. Could also still be Korok, though. I'm just not... Yeah. I have a much worse fix on what's actually going on because of this change-up with the stand-in.
Yeah, definitely makes things up a little bit here. It's kind of confusing. One thing I want to mention is that Team Liquid, their last couple of drafts, they've been highly prioritizing that Nyx Assassin. It slips on through first ban phase very commonly these days, and Team Liquid seems to take that as an opportunity to snap it up. But in the last couple of matches, especially against Virtus Pro, it doesn't seem to have been making that much of an impact. Of course, Nyx Assassin and Chen, that will be able to set up some powerful combos if the Impale works out, but ever since they kind of clipped the range on it just a little bit, or bug fixed it to where it's supposed to be, either way, it just kind of feels like it's lacking a little bit of that extra presence, and I'm not sure if it's going to add that extra oomph that they really need. Of course, the Mana Burn's great against heroes like Batrider, and of course the Carapace as well, a solid counter in that regard, but it's still, the one thing I really like about it is he is up against so many AoE things. I mean, if you see a reverse player coming, you hit that Carapace, you stun out the Magnus, you stun out the Gyrocopter, anybody trying to AoE in that little area, and on top of that, whenever you want to halt a Batrider in his tracks, just step on into his Firefly, take a little bath in the flames, and spike it up. And from there, I really think that there will be a lot of control that can be provided by Mike with that Nyx Assassin. It's just, judging by the play coming in through history, it hasn't really been about their team fight. It's not about their mid game that's lacking. It's really they were having to step it up more so in the laning phase, and we'll have to see if that will actually work out with the Nyx and Chen combo.
Yeah, I mean, Nyx Chen is great for roaming ganks. That's sort of what Liquid were lacking yesterday and had today. So this composition, it's very roam friendly. You can see that they didn't sort of go for stand and deliver support heroes or heroes that have trouble sort of getting around. As soon as Fluff gets a few levels under his belt and manages to pick up those creeps, the ability to sort of go and make trouble for Fnatic elsewhere on the map is going to be strong. We actually probably will see a something like a level 1 jungle incursion from TL with all 5 of them just to plant some wards down to disrupt this Batrider positioning. So probably, yeah, I mean, I think almost certain that's what they're going to do. And Fnatic now, just concentrating on those solo lane bans. So the Clockwork taken out, the Weaver, the TC anti-mage that he plays very, very well. Since, of course, TL do need a TC hero. Weaver is a hero he goes on pretty commonly, actually, especially when Bulba's up in the middle. Anti-mage, also pretty common option. So these are smart bans for both teams, sort of adapting to the difference in lineups. Whereas, obviously, for TL, your objective here is to take out all the support options that Fnatic can bring to the table. It's actually going to be a challenge for Fnatic to come up with a good support pair here. They might have to... I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, honestly, they've been pressed hard. The Rubik, the Shadow Demon, the Lion, all really, really good to lay the groundwork, and we actually might have to see them opt for a supportive Gyrocopter. We saw that kind of as a little bit of a wonky feint with what was going on through the Virtus Pro draft, and they were like, okay, well, we have the Gyrocopter totally running him as Illidan's core, and then threw it on the back end where he just runs supportive, gets his skills up, and makes sure that he can dish out good magic damage and maybe get some disables off. And that's an interesting fact that we can see with...
Gyro, I mean.
Yeah, that's what you can see with the support Gyro, and I mean, technically Alchemist can support as well, so it's really how they want to play it out. But most likely we're going to be seeing Era on the Alchemist, and then we'll be either seeing the stand-in picking up Gyrocopter supportively, or, I mean, I guess either, obviously Fly or No Tail would be the other one.
Right. I expect to see this Gyrocopter as the support option. Fnatic don't really like that hard support Alchemist. It usually is Era on it, and I mean, I like this actually. The stun is good both defensively and offensively. The only thing is that I still don't really see the Brewmaster is kind of a wild card in this game. I feel. Oh, if Luna, so we could see Korok on the Luna. Actually, I'm not sure. It's gonna be interesting to see how Liquid actually apportions their 1 to 3 players in this game. What I wanted to say is Nature's Prophet, by the way, is still in the pool. We'll probably see him 5th.
Yeah, but which team do you think?
Oh, for Liquid.
Obviously Liquid. Okay, yeah. That makes more sense to me.
No way.
Yeah,
they can shove Nature's Prophet.
You know, just get all solo heroes and then just try to farm one jungle, the enemy's jungle.
Hulk farms the Ancients. He does that little YouTube Ancient stacking. Yeah, it's Venge. So Fly plays this hero fairly often, more often than most players do. So it's going to be Fly on the Venge probably, and the because they have two heroes that can several heroes that can do high damage, the Vengeful Spirit Aura might actually come into play later on. Alchemist's attack speed is so incredibly fast that percentage aura can really make a huge difference as we go into the later stages of the game.
So yeah, I mean, this is where really they have to make their impact on the match itself. Obviously, them wanting to get it won't necessarily seal the deal if they take game 1, but they want to be in a position where they don't have to worry about game 2 or 3. They want to. This is already very tense with the fact that they can be eliminated right here. So in this position, they're kind of drafting for the win, where they have to go in and make sure that they're not fighting from behind. They want to start on even playing field and then not get that psychological disadvantage where they have to win 2 straight in a row. They can kind of feel comfortable about this. Team Liquid more so has had a stronger showing in their first game rather than their second game in most matches, not just in TPL, but across all their different things. Some people talk about servers being a factor there, but honestly, I just think it's about really when they're in their comfort zone, when they're putting on their game face is really when they want to bring the most aggression and when they want to make sure that they're as coordinated and as active as possible on the battlefield. So that's kind of the Team Liquid that we see, and now with this Darkseer pickup, we kind of see their lineup working for them. They don't want to go for the Nature's Prophet necessarily in this situation because the split push wouldn't add that much to their composition when you consider how much, like, they have the flat cannon, they have the acid spray, they have plenty of random counter push mechanics. It still adds in a lot. Because he has global presence as well, but I like the Darkseer more, in my opinion, just because of what they can do with Teamfight. Vacuuming into a Clap, into a Nyx's Impale, they're going to be able to actually make a lot happen on all the different lanes.
I actually don't like the Darkseer quite as much as you do, Blaze. I think it's strong. It's good. I actually like the Nature's Prophet. Bulba doesn't really... When you compare Bulba and Trixie and how they play Nature's Prophet, Trixie is much more focused on that split push, whereas Bulba is just, I want to present a global ganking presence. I actually feel that Nature's Prophet fit their thesis with the Nyx Assassin and the Chen a little bit better, just because he can add that additional mobile killing wherever Nyx and Chen are traveling. That said, Darkseer in this situation can actually probably survive in the solo lane. He doesn't necessarily need to go straight into the jungle, which is better. I mean, it's better leveling. Exactly. We'll see if he might go into the jungle anyway, but the fact that he can survive in the solo lane is a pretty big deal. Better laning presence means a better early to mid game from Liquid, and if they can overwhelm Fnatic there, I mean, the Alchemist will definitely have a lot of struggles.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a big factor, is if you can actually have an offlane hero be in the offlane rather than just relegating itself to the jungle outright, you're going to be able to split up that experience more effectively and just in general make more of an impact when Bulba can actually get some points in vacuum. That's going to be a really big deal in my opinion. For right now, though, looking at the individual roster selections, of course, Korok is going to be on the mid as the Brewmaster, but we are also going to be seeing No-Tail picking up that role on the Magnus. So we have seen some hit and miss type play with him as far as his initiation, but all in all, he's a great player with a very solid professional history. And in that sense, if he can just, if he's been practicing up his reverse polarities, if he's been working on making sure that those kind of misplays don't happen here, then he's actually going to be able to be a dominating force, because he's always going to be winning the lane, or at least holding true to it once he gets that bottle out, which should be in no time at all.
I wanted to say, by the way, that I was totally wrong about the Alchemist. I really thought it was going to be Era on the Alch, but no, it's Era on the Gyro. It's going to be Jaco with Fly as the support. So Alch actually is no joke as a roaming support because the stable concoction is so good.
Yeah.
Especially if you get the levels. The earlier Alch hits the rank 4 unstable concoction, the more insane he is, because it does great damage. It's a long stun. It's an AoE. Like, sometimes the AoE factor comes into play. It could be a huge deal. Trixie, meanwhile, just...
Oh, cute little play.
Lone Druid style action here. If he gets stunned out, though, this could be First Blood. It looks like he'll be okay, so he actually does get the entire creep wave out. This is amazing. It's Lone Druid style Bat Rider play.
Exactly. He's got the boots of speed. That's the big factor there. He started out with boots first, so moving on around, as soon as he doesn't have collision, he doesn't have too much of a problem.
Ooh.
Down a bottom lane, however, not so fortunate for the Darkseer. Pretty obvious what happened. I mean, concoction plus magic missile, that is an insane amount of stun. Following up with a single barrage is enough to bring him down to critical HP levels. So they found the opportunity. He didn't go for Surge first, he went for Iron Shell first, and as such, Bulba's going to have a rough time down here. So he's going to keep on heading back on down. Hopefully he won't just have the same thing happen over and over again, but in this stage, it's difficult for that not to be the case, especially when they put down that aggressive Observer Ward right on the lane, monitoring his every move.
Right. So fairly bold choices to put both solo laners in the jungle rather than in the solo lane, but in the solo lane rather than the jungle. Way to go, saying the exact opposite of what I meant. And we'll have to see. I think Trixie might actually be okay in this lane. Bulba. This is the difficulty of putting the Darkseer from level 1.
Alright, charging again. Oh my goodness. Another missile, another concoction. Well, actually, where's the missile? Oh, they start off with the concoction, actually. Following it up, but they're actually not going to get the Gyrocopter in here.
Will.
Maybe in time. They will go under the tower, diving deep, but yeah, Bulba will walk away and be able to salve up to full.
Yeah. The thing is, the level 1 concoction doesn't actually deal that much damage compared to some of the later levels, and you also have to wait. So the closer Bulba starts to the tower, the easier it'll be for him since he can sort of walk. They want to use the Venge Stun later, so they actually probably could have used the Venge Stun first, and then you toss the concoction there. A little bit of a miscommunication maybe, because I feel that would start Bulba much closer to the tower as Era made his approach. So possibly a missed opportunity to kill there. Once Bulba hits 2, it's going to be much easier for him.
Exactly.
But until that point, it's going to be tough. And we see Trixie, by the way, giving up on his lane as well. He's moving to the jungle.
Korok going to be able to bottle up the invisible rune up on top, covered up by the Chen there, and yeah, with this situation, right now we have one offlaner actually participating in that sense. So the Bat Rider did hit level 2, so we will be able to pretty much do whatever he wants as long as he's actively stacking on this western hard camp, but still, falling behind, he's going to take a little bit of time. Actually, yeah, No-Tail trying to go for that Skewer, not going to work out from there, but just a little back and forth. I really feel in this position, you can look at the last hits and say, yeah, there's one CS advantage for No-Tail, but with this full bottle, Korok actually is going to have a bit of an advantage, at least for the moment. Until that Bottle Crow comes back, Courier plays the role of the Milkman and will be able to send it right back out in a little bit, but for now, Korok will be able to win most of the exchanges and bottle right back up for the 4-minute rune.
I can't imagine that either of these heroes will actually die until 6. 6 is going to change this lane hugely. Until then, they should be okay unless they really, really overextend.
Ooh,
we see a smoke, by the way, coming from Fnatic.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. A lot of pressure coming in for the Tier 1 tower. That's going to happen with the Basilius and Lunar Blessing already up. They use the Chen creep already, but yeah, they're able to bring down this tower quickly, handing it to TC pretty effectively, but here comes that initiation. No-Tail is such low HP that I think Korok underestimates the danger. He already uses Invisor, and now that big damage coming out, they get the Wave of Terror. They're going to go with the Concoction, but Korok gets a big crit. Right-clicks down and actually kills the Magnus. Could walk away. He stands and delivers, turning around with that Drunken Haze, bottling up. More right-clicks coming on out. He won't dive, but shoot. They just went 3v1, and Korok walks away with a kill.
Sick drunken haze luck. But just in general, I mean, that's what I said. You can overextend if you come in too low, and they kind of came in too low there, both on mana. Like Fly didn't have the mana to actually.
Oh, No-Tail wants this kill. He will not. He will get the right click. No drunken brawler proc. That would have been the worst dodge in the world. But yeah, there we go. He does end up getting a revenge kill, and yeah, that's good experience. That does put him at level 6. But yeah, that actually means that he made it there just slightly faster than the Brewmaster himself. Either way,
that's actually really good. That's no joke. Korok has to be careful about coming back in this lane, because No-Tail could just RP and get
yeah, the creep wave is insane right now. That he could easily go for that potential. Starts off with a shockwave, doesn't have mana, but
he's fine now.
That and of course, Brewmaster is so darn tanky. He would have had a little bit of fountain regeneration. He would have just about gotten his ultimate, and of course, he is a strength hero with a base armor right now of 4. So he was in an okay position, even if that RP came out, because the creeps won't do that much damage through that stout shield.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think you're probably right. I want to comment real quick on the fact that TC is substantially doing better than Era, even though, I mean, Bulba at this point has left. Where is Bulba right now? Walking towards jungle. But still, TC has almost a 10 last hit lead on Era.
Yeah.
And Era did not face that much more opposition in this lane. This goes to the fact that Luna is a better last hitter early than Gyrocopter. But just in general, it also goes to TC's own personal player skill. He's an excellent laning carry. Both these players are really dependable players. They both go... I would call them both, like, they play like 0.75 carries. Like, they have some hard carries that they like, but generally they'll go for these sorts of mid-game carries. And I think that's what you see here. They're both on these dependable carries that do damage early and transition into carrying late. So the Luna and the Gyrocopter are both exactly like that. But so far, TC rocketing towards that more quickly than Era is.
I would say so, but one thing to mention is that he's actually going for a completely different item build, actually going to be opting for a Helm of the Dominator rush, going for the Ancient Sec extremely quickly. Liquid does have a Chen that can kind of, if he wants to commit those resources, do it for the Luna, so they can still take care of that on their own terms, but it's a really, really good pickup for the Gyrocopter to catch up on Lost Farm. Era knows that he's behind a little bit right now, and will be able to find that opportunity to just burn down the Ancients really, really quickly if he does start stacking like that.
The thing is, I would like to see, just again about the 5-man coordination. This is the watchword for Fnatic this game, because they are playing with a stand-in. If they knew that Era was going to rush Helm of the Dom, they should have spent less time roaming, actually, considering it only earned 1 kill on Korok, and wow, No-Tail taking a lot of damage there.
Yeah.
Less time roaming and more time stacking these normal jungle camps. This is no joke. If you get these double or triple stacked, and then Gyro can clean it up with the flat cannon, then that serves to help that a lot, and then you can add on to that with the Helm of the Dom Ancient stacking. But instead, they don't really get these stacks. Era is going to be behind until they start doing the Ancient. Other problem with that, real quick, as the Tier 2 tower falls. These 2 towers down mean that Liquid has a decent amount of control over this area. Once they get this Tier 1 down, how are Fnatic actually going to be able to safely stack and clear out these camps without worrying about Brewmaster jumping in on them, or Nyx Assassin jumping in on them?
Yeah. It gets more and more difficult as time goes by, because they're going to be able to see the blinks come on through pretty quickly. For the Brewmaster here, the Darkseer's finding, not levels, honestly, but he will be finding enough gold to get a mechanism at a relatively good time. So pretty much Bulba just has to, pretty much he's their weak link. As soon as he starts actually getting the levels, whether in the jungle or just surviving for a couple minutes on the bottom lane, he will be in a better position. He's going to actually eat a couple creep waves here, which is going to be great for him. And in that position, he'll be feeling a lot more comfortable about it. We are seeing a little bit more push, trying to actually get a tower in return from Fnatic on towards this Tier 1 bottom, but the fortification comes out, and I think they could contest this. They have Mike surged on in. They're going to go in for that stun combo, and bursting down onto Fly, they might just get him. Call down comes out, but TC dropping that Lucent Beam, doing a lot of damage here. There was a quick little bit of Carapace going on to Era, but the Lucent Beam just now striking will be enough for Korok. Surged on in. He will get this clap, and from there they should be able to get the kill. Nice flame break, pulling him back, though. There's that ultimate Primal Split coming on out, and it should be enough to bring down Era. There's the stun, blocked in by all the different individuals, but finally he falls, doing some damage to Trixie. Alchemist can't target the pandas, and instead gets stunned himself. The Earth Panda walks away, and the Wind and Fire just send a little bit more damage their way.
Not a good fight for Fnatic. I mean, they lose 2, including Gyro, and that's the thing. This Helm of the Dom build gives him a little more tankiness, but he just doesn't do very much damage quite yet.
Yeah.
And in fact, their entire lineup just doesn't do that much damage quite yet. And RP is one thing. If they get the RP, they'll probably win that fight. But in the absence of that, Liquid are going to clean up these early engagements. And good rotation to them. I mean, even TC coming in there. Oh ho! TC's building Helm of the Dom too.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Like, as far as items, the fact that they got the tier 1 last hit on Luda, they got the tier 2 spread across all the individual heroes. TC is about to be like just straight up a tier 2 boots upgrade ahead of Era, because the Dominator, I mean, they each got one component of the Helm of the Dominator. They each have a Basilius, they each have treads, but now, yeah, we see that advantage coming out of Luna. She's very close to her Dominator, and she picked up the Magic Wand, so that's just a straight 800, 900 net worth advantage.
Fly.
And now Fly in a terrible spot.
There?
I mean, he didn't think that they'd be smoke ganking right next to their base, but obviously that's not the case. They're finding opportunities where they can take them, and yeah, Liquid delivers some extra pain. Fly just really wants levels right now. Vengeful Spirit with a swap is so much more effective than one without, so...
I just... It's not just that, Blaze. It's also because he went for this Vengeance Aura early.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice. It certainly it buffs Gyro's damage, and they know the reason they're doing this is because they want to have that Gyro do good early damage even when he's doing the Helm of the Dominator approach.
Yeah.
And it means that it'll clear out those ancient stacks faster, and it sort of provides a graceful transition to when he has a lot of damage. The flip side is when Vengeful Spirit is alone, or when she's ganking with Alchemist and Gyro isn't there, nearly useless until he adds more levels onto this.
Yeah, they're not grouping up.
This is the problem right now, that Liquid, when they're good, Blaze, and especially IX Mike in Fluff's forum speaks to this very clearly, their movement is amazing. They really have these sort of bottom-up, like, map control, creating ganks, creating opportunities for those 3 top core players to shine. And that's what they did this morning, that's kind of what they're doing here, and I worry that Fnatic may have played right into this with their approach.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, it was pretty obvious that either the Alchemist or the Gyrocopter was going to be taking the farm here, and those two heroes as a support have some significant limitations. Right now, the Alchemist is pretty much a stun-and-done hero. He's walking around with boots and a magic stick. So he does a little bit of damage over time with Acid Spray, but really, what they're looking for is some synergy with stun with magic armor reduction, and that can help to an extent. But they've only found a couple kills so far. No Tail using Invis just to get into this really good position, but they're not going to be able to do much more than take the tier 1 tower. That's great for them, but they're going to need a little bit more if they're going to be actually on even footing going on into the mid game.
Yeah. So let me praise Fnatic a bit, because they've been doing well at this defensive warding, and note they also block off this ancient stack here. So they're getting a lot of vision. They recently got, there's a little bit of a war going on in the wards here, because Liquid has now replaced Fnatic's ward that was right here with one of their own, and the Sentry. So you can see both teams want to keep an eye on the Ancients. They know that Ancient stacking is going to be a big deal this game. Both teams have seen that the other carry is building Helm of the Dominator, and so we actually could even see fights around those ancient camps, which is a rare place for a team fight to break out, but in this game I think we'll see it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, I think it's going to be the biggest thing, is how they can control it and where they maneuver. Darkseer is a great hero to do so, but Magnus, of course, as well. So you drop down an Acid Spray, you put everybody inside that reverse polarity, and then you just start flat canning away. I mean, it's a great team fight revolving around those Ancients, and so they can go contest the Radiant ones, contest the Dire ones. It's all about vision, and right now, I gotta say, as far as that goes, the Dire have a bit of an advantage for the Radiant ones, but as you mentioned, blocking it off entirely, Luna's not going to find her own stacks. And so that's going to be a different matter of control entirely.
I want to say Fly has found the swap, so he's level 6. Sweet. He has Nether swap, but so does, I mean, we have Vendetta, we have Hand of God from Chen, and Jocko, he needs a little bit more to actually hit his ultimate. The ultimate of Alchemist won't actually change that much in this game because he's not carrying, but it does help him roam. He gets around a lot faster, and he regens mana and health quickly so he can spam out those spells more often. So it's also fairly important. They're going to try to want to find that. Levels-wise, I'd say both teams actually doing more or less what they'd want. And Era has caught up in terms of creep farm. He's actually all the way back up to where TC is, so he's doing a good job. And now Liquid want to make sure that he's not...
this TP, I'm not sure about this. No Tail coming in, but he has a haster, and that's it. Okay, going for the deny, he won't, he's timing it, he gets it! Perfect
Good.
timing from No-Tail, and now looking to
Problem.
retaliate now that the battlefield is cleared, coming on in. Fly, it dispels that smoke, tries to go for a stun, but instead just throwing out the wave to walk away. They don't want to go in 5v5 without Trixie here. He has that blink, and he's got to be the one to, if not start it, then be the immediate follow-up after that reverse polarity expires. Either way, surged on in, Vendetta up, Clarity even, Nyx Assassin is ready to rumble, but unfortunately, Fnatic is well aware, and they're going to be hiding underneath their tier 2 until they feel comfortable about going on out.
Mike wants to go ham on these guys, but Fnatic, they're playing smart. I think they need to have a fairly defensive posture unless they get a very favorable engagement. So that's what you see here. The problem for Fnatic is all this good defensive vision that they've been getting doesn't mean anything if they don't have control over their own jungle, and that's what Liquid is seeking to establish here.
Yeah.
The question is, can Fnatic defend the tier 2?
Okay, we see the initiation going on. Korra, can they stop the primal split? They get the reverse polarity. The Hand of God doing nothing here. Ixblade taking a lot. They do see the Eclipse come out, but No-Tail will walk away. And now they have the follow-up because there's no more ultis available. TC, there's the big damage coming out. It looks like Trixie will fall to this last right click, but they're napalmed up, and they're going to have a hard time following up underneath the tower. There is going to be the Lucid Beam along with the Shockwave to finish off the Fly, and from here they're very confident in their position. So two really, really good maneuvers from Fnatic, but committing the reverse polarity in full to Brewmaster, it did prevent the primal split, but it meant that they didn't have anything else to work with. They were relying on the Gyrocopter to have damage that he just couldn't put out.
Right. I actually, Blaze, I really liked the RP to prevent the primal split, because the Brewmaster is the wild card. Without him, they don't actually need the RP to be okay in the team fight. The problem is they left the safety of their own tower, and they couldn't bring down TC before he delivered most of his damage. I think that's really what prevented Fnatic from doing better there.
Yeah, we do see stuns on mid. Korok actually just trying to maneuver around, and with Nyx coming on in, they should be able to get this kill.
Split, though.
So big damage. The Flame Break puts him right in range for that damage. There's going to be that stun coming out. There is the primal split active. Fly is so low, he might even fall, but we're looking at Alchemist right now, charging on up, but bursted on down. He won't even get the concoction out. Just finished off very, very abruptly, and without this primal split, without the Blink Daggers up, they don't have a chance at all. Will they get to Tornado? No, the Wind Panda has expired, but they're still trying to slow No-Tail down. The Lucid Beam to come on out. No-Tail in a terrible spot, but running on away from Era. There is going to be that attempt for Drunken Haze, but it's not going to be effective enough. He is the skewer 1 second. It's not going to be enough. TC barely gets out with a just shy of 50 HP last second before that skewer came online.
Think they can get Fluff?
I don't know. Flame Break is going to be initiated, so they do at least pick up this kill. They use the primal split, they get the Brewmaster and Chen in the grave, and they can probably try to follow up with a tier 2 here, but they still lost a lot.
Yeah, no, I think it actually was okay. It would have been, if they had gotten TC, that would have been amazing.
But the issue is they bought back on the Alchemist and the Batrider. I mean, Alchemist is not even going to have a mechanism anytime soon. Fluffs already has his.
Yeah, it sucks that Alchemist died. No, I mean, it's definitely a tough fight, but considering...
And cutting out, unfortunately, but hopefully he'll bounce back in on a little bit. Sorry, guys, with the whole DDoS thing, we've actually had to try to take measures to...
Cross the map?
Okay, there he is.
Giving Era the opportunity to clean up this 4-stack Ancients. That's not to be underestimated, just the positional advantage. This is a game of positioning, Blaze, so any time that Fnatic can earn for themselves on their side of the map is really good.
Yeah, they definitely.
I mean, look at how much gold that just gave Era. The entirety of his Shadow Blade.
Yeah, they definitely got some more space with the Fnatic being able to clear that up. So, in a way, worth it, but we'll have to see if he can actually make use of that Shadow Blade, if it's going to be a big factor for them to start something up. Because, of course, these heroes are relatively low HP, especially that Nyx Assassin. With only 1 point in Carapace, if they have detection and any kind of disable, Mike is actually going to be the easiest to kill in this circumstance here. He's actually going in pretty aggressive multiple times over with the Vendetta and Surge combo. He's been able to find opportunities to create fights on their terms, but it's difficult because every time you go in like that, there's always the chance of a Batrider or a Magnus waiting to blink Skewer or blink Lasso and really just screw somebody over. I mean, Korok does have his 1200 range mobility utility, but it's going to take a little bit of time before they can actually make that work because they're waiting for the Primal Split to cool down, and for him, of course, to make up for mana, which he just now got his Arcane Boots.
Era.
Yeah, that could be dead. He does have Shadow Blade, so that certainly helps. But now they know it, and they can go for detection pretty hardcore.
Yeah, now that they know. They honestly did not know about the Shadow Blade until that exact moment, because he wasn't on screen after the clearing out the Ancients. TC is going to hit BKB soon, about 850 gold. This is a big deal. A lot of people underrate BKB in games against teams like Fnatic. And not like the team Fnatic, the composition that Fnatic are running. Because they're like, oh, well, RP is going to hit me regardless of whether I'm BKB'd. Lasso is going to hit me regardless of if I'm BKB'd. And so will the slow from call down. It's not really the case because BKB is still very, very important to prevent the damage, if nothing else. You can get brought down in a Lasso RP just from the damage alone and the call down. And having the BKB, even if you're disabled for that entire duration, you can actually still survive and deliver your damage. And so that's very, very important for TC in this game. Now, my question is, will they find this ward here for Fnatic, counter ward it, and pick up the Ancients? Because if Fnatic somehow steal these Ancients, that would actually put them substantially ahead, because Era is going to start rocketing ahead of TC's farm.
Yeah, it's very true, but I think they're most focused on the fight ahead. They're already forcing out the fortification. They don't really want to save the tier 1 tower, but they want to use it as a way to bait out this kind of a fight. With Korok already in the fray, there's that big RP, the concoction on top of it all, the call down, the damage is there. Korok might fall, no, the Primal Split comes on through, looking to retaliate with that Eclipse. Era falls next, No Tail, Lucent Beam, there's that damage. Following it up, more disables from the Pandas. There is a Tornado up on the Alchemist here, buyback from the Gyrocopter, but now they're going to be able to finish off Alk. There's those stuns, there's the damage, a TP in from Magnus, but without a reverse polarity, it could be a big mistake going in. He finishes off Ike's Mike. The Shockwave does at least finish that off, but the question is, can they make more out of it? Going on through, buybacks everywhere once again, Gyrocopter and Magnus, but only cleaning up the Nyx as a little bit of revenge.
That's rough. If you look at... So, the reason the gold earned graph is a horrible lie now is because
gold spent.
4 buybacks now expended for Fnatic, and none used for Liquid. Just to stay alive in this game, Fnatic are having to repeatedly buy back in these fights, and it's costing them a ton in terms of development of their heroes. That fight was, I mean, you can't really classify it as anything other than a disaster for Fnatic. Liquid really, really were dominant, and the fact that TC wasn't controlled, that Eclipse killed 2 people all by itself.
Yeah.
It was an absolutely huge Eclipse in that fight. And if you're Fnatic, I mean, chills down your spine right there. I mean, do you need pipe? Who's going to build it?
Exactly. Yeah, they can barely get a mechanism out right now. Alchemist is about 650 off of that, and that'll help. But yeah, that kind of nuke coming on through, it was a great timing for them. She was at level 12, that's just after getting her rank 2 ulti, and as such, she was able to dish out a ton of damage, and that level 16 should be coming out in not too long as well. So Fnatic have to force the issue now before those nukes get out of hand. They start off with a lasso and a fluff, and that should be a pretty big pick. No, but the mechanism does come on through, but they are going to be able to finish this off. The question is, will there be more? TC taking a few hits, but they're going to hide under their tier 2 tower, and they should be safe from any more oncoming assaults.
Nice Alchemist stun. I really think for Fnatic, one big thing is going to be adding on the BKB for Era, and he is up to 1,400 gold again, so doing a really good job of farming considering how difficult of a game it's been for them on the map. So if he can get BKB, then he's not as worried about Eclipse. He worries not at all about Brewmaster, which is a...
Oh, interesting move there. TC is going to be RP'd up, but he pops off the BKB. He has lifesteal. He can just go at it right now. Darkseer with a big vacuum. The wall followed up, and they take 2 with them. Moving on forward, and they are slowed down pretty hardcore by that call down, but they might be able to get one more. It looks like Vengeful Spirit was picked off with that Lucent Beam, and from here, Bulba is trying to bring down Air. He pops out the Shadow Blade, but here comes the Dust. Great movement from Ike's Mike, and the stun will come on through for another kill. 4 for 0 right here, and there, why not? You might as well. You're right here. Take down the Roshan in just a matter of seconds.
That fight was all about Bulba. Amazing execution for Bulba there. The key vacuums just completely mispositioning Fnatic, who, it has to be said, got a little bit greedy after killing off very stuff. Like they thought they had more of an advantage in that fight than they did. And again, the Shadow Blade just not really doing much. I would have liked to see TC and Era continue to just build the exact same builds, because I feel like a BKB would have helped a lot there. And Gyro sort of had to flee out instead of delivering his damage. And now TC is going to be way ahead after that fight, Blaze.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is pretty much it. That BKB certainly helped out in that engagement there. He was sitting on half HP, but with that vacuum on Wall of Replica and the fact that they were already underneath their tier 2, yeah, they pretty much didn't have much of a choice but to throw spells and run, and once that Black King Bar came out, there was no chance for them to throw the spells out. So 385 movement speed, just getting that long-range Lucent Beam, you just can't get out of that kind of position. So they were able to clean up extremely nicely, and yeah, it was all about Bulba's timing. Pretty much the second the No Tail blinked on in for that reverse polarity, and everybody was right there to actually follow it up with big damage and big disables.
Right.
Instead, it was them vacuumed on in and running for their lives. It just got completely turned around on them, and No Tail's single RP, which sounded good at that very moment, turned out to be disastrous once they realized they didn't have any more team fight to bring to it because they were already getting just completely trucked by Liquid.
Yeah, Fnatic at this point, it's not that the solo RP is even bad to pick off critical targets, it's that to avoid a fight getting out of hand, they might need more. And Liquid just going to seek to very heavily pressure while they have this Aegis, and I think it's absolutely the correct decision. You want to limit Era, because Era, I still have to note, despite the fact that he's died 3 times...
Going in on Fly, that's a free easy pickoff.
Nice.
Like, just 100% handing them this Tier 2, and some damage on the Tier 3 as well. I mean, yes, they could trade the Tier 1 top, but since this is falling so darn quickly, they can easily put some big damage on Tier 3.
They should take the Tier 1 because there's no way that they can stop the Tier 2. The Tier 3 is another story. I think they can make a fight here.
Yeah.
But it's so tough for Fnatic, and Liquid doing the exact right thing of pressuring them. Era and No Tail are going to have a big fight, basically, in this one. Let's still remember, RP plus a good Ulk stun is
going on a lasso onto TC, coming on through. He still has that BKB up. There's a Carapace stun, keeping TC right where he wants to be. Can pop off the Eclipse anytime, but just right-clicking down on Trixie, burning him down quickly. Alchemist has to throw the stun, gets it out onto Fluff, and Korok, there's the RP onto TC, but he turns tail and runs the second he pops it. Boba coming in with the vacuum, big Hand of God, big mechanism, doesn't keep Boba up, but it gives them enough time to turn it around, bringing down one more hero, and now should be the Rax.
Yeah, they needed RP on Several and Unstable Concoction on the same Several, and then Gyro to follow, and it didn't happen.
No.
Even Trixie couldn't get it going.
Big Concoction, still actually bringing down one more. The Nyx does fall, but it looks like Luna will be able to walk on out of it, actually finishing off even the range Rax, just kind of a bit of extra salt on the wound here as they take even one more permanent advantage. So, great spot for them. And test of faithing back to Luna. Going to be able to get out of dodge very, very easily here. Great fight for them. The kills, obviously, speaking for themselves, 21-11. And even more so, the fact that they've only lost their outer Tier 1 towers and have now punched on through, taken the racks in the mid, and all the Tier 2s up on top.
Bleak fight for Fnatic. I mean, Liquid's execution is still just a tier above so far this game. Somebody Twitched, I was like, oh, do you hate Fnatic? No, I love Fnatic. I think they're a fantastic team. Their strength, in my opinion, is that they work amazingly well as a 5-man unit, and they have great strategy and execution of that strategy. And that's kind of what they're having a little bit of difficulty here, because Liquid is just outplaying them, in my opinion. IX Mike in that fight, Blaze at the very beginning of the game mentioned this Nyx Assassin and how he can just walk into Batrider with spiked Carapace up, and there you go, stunned Batrider.
Yeah.
He saved TC in that fight with that exact combo. The spiked Carapace and Impale on Batrider, and suddenly you have a dead Batrider. And suddenly the Luna is once again free to roam around. Another huge Eclipse. It must be said, the vacuum from Bobo was, once again, essentially perfect. He vacked them in to that weird little spot between the 2 Raxes, where it's like the perfect choke point, and put a wall on top of it. It was honestly insane execution. Exactly.
Just really, really smooth from them, and the timing was great too. Like, Luna was patient. Despite being so far under fire, TC was waiting out, knew he didn't have to Eclipse to finish off Bat, and then waited for the perfect timing where they could pick off more, and that was what allowed them to burst down the remainder of the threatening heroes. So they took a huge advantage at this stage, and it's going to take so darn much for Fnatic to pull it back. Right now, not only are they down by, almost 10k gold, but of course they've also spent a ton more. If you look at the net worth, it just doesn't compare. The red is far, far superior to the green in pretty much every single matchup. Every single offlane versus offlane, carry versus carry. Dire is just dominating right now.
We're tearing up our insight. The red is superior to the green. I have to say, BKB's done for Era if he buys out for it. This is a pretty big deal for them, and I think it's what they need to defend the next. Actually, I would say that he has to buy out.
Ooh, nice move from Korok. He does get skewered right on in. The reverse play comes out, but honestly, they can't even finish him now. They commit the lasso, they get the RP, but who cares? Korok is still in this. Just dishing out all that damage, and TC to follow it up. Big Eclipse, didn't even pop Manta, and at this stage, since they just used those 2 abilities, I think they might just call it. Like, I don't know, Primal Split about to come out, this is going to be the last fight, and it's going to be very, very deciding. Arrow does get a BKB out, so he will be able to survive, but here's that big vacuum, that big wall replica, the damage coming on out, and they have nothing to show for it. The racks are going to drop here. And once you're down 2 racks, it's such a low comeback opportunity.
It's tough. It's really, really, really hard, I agree.
Yeah, X-Mech is in the front lines, pops off that Carapace, will get a stun out before walking away here. An arrow, look at that damage coming out.
Okay, now, yeah.
Tornado, slow damage, there it is. Sorry, I predicted about 15 seconds too early. But no, the team fight, there was no chance for them. And unless Liquid completely screwed up there was no chance for Fnatic to take that last fight. And
yeah. As long as Arrow was alive, I would stay in. I thought like, as slim as the chance is, Blaze, they're playing to avoid elimination.
Yeah,
this is
true.
seeds 1 and 2 for the playoffs. 2 absolutely fantastic teams. And they had to have been disappointed to be sent down to the losers bracket 2-0 yesterday.
Exactly.
So play on, in my opinion, until the moment in which there's no chance. And Era dying there took it from, 10% to 0%.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Liquid... really fantastic play. Taking nothing away from Fnatic, it's always tough playing with a stand-in. The coordination that I talked about, that would be the challenge, wasn't quite there. Right starting from the beginning, where I feel like Jaco and Fly on that second gank on Bulba weren't 100% on the same page as to their stun timing, and you just sort of saw that repeat itself. Like, one of the great things about this Fnatic lineup is that concoction on a stack that's been RP'd is like double the disable plus double the damage. And it only happened once in the entire game because RP wasn't really ever on a stack, even proceeding into the parts of the game where you absolutely needed a stacked RP just to stay in the fight.
Yeah.
But that's Fnatic's side. Liquid's side, amazing execution. I mean, that fight at mid-tier 2, where they got RP'd, it was actually a big RP, and they came back just with Vacuum and like Centaur Conqueror stuns from Fluff and stuff. That's something you only see from like the best teams in the world. Yeah. And Liquid, people were hating on them so much yesterday for that
for good reason.
Invite,
for good reason.
And I would say, look at these games.
It's all about the loss, all about the win. I mean, if they are not on point, it's very, very obvious. But at the same time, looking at them right now, they just look so darn strong, and it's on them to keep form. It's on them to stay on point and move on forward to try to seal out the series. Of course, Fnatic gonna give them a fight for it, and hopefully we get to a game 3. But I always love the more competitive matchups. But either way, this was just really strong showing from Team Liquid. I do think there were some mistakes. The movement from the reverse polarity and the lasso on the Brewmaster, it's not a hex. It doesn't mute his evasion. He's still going to dodge. He still has amazing effective HP because he's a strength hero with that built on in. So with his Vladimir's armor and with all those other factors, they committed so much to something they couldn't bring down. And once you waste 2 ultimates and don't even bring down the Brew before the Primal Split, literally you just lost the team fight. There's no way you can come back from that. In that position, Bulba, all of Team Liquid played a way that you couldn't make those kinds of mistakes, and it just completely ran rampant all over Fnatic. So it didn't look like a very competitive matchup. They still had great opportunities, but unfortunately Liquid shutting them down left and right.
Yep. All right, I'm excited for game 2.
Yeah, looking at the next one, thank you guys so much for tuning on into the Premier League playoffs. Again, this is the loser bracket, so the best of 3 series here. Game 1 goes to Liquid, and if Fnatic doesn't shape up, they might be shipping out. That's just straight up. The elimination is at stake here, and we'll have to see. Either way, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Going on into game 2 in just a minute. I myself am Blaze. This is Vikramond, and we'll see you guys in the next game.